something to change how we feel inside of us. And that's, for the most part, the old model of reality. But people are beginning to learn how to self-regulate.
Everybody asks the same question: how to make a life better, more enjoyable? Is it our fault that life isn't what we want it to be? Is life unfair? Does things happen just randomly to us? Or is our life our responsibility? If you could, would you take responsibility for your life in your hands? Dr. Joe Dispenza explains how and why things happen to us and how to make our life better and easier.
And when people begin to gain knowledge and information, knowledge is the precursor to experience. And every time they learn new things, they make new connections in their brain. Their learning is making new synaptic connections. So it starts in the mind. It starts with a thought. So as you begin to learn new knowledge and you begin to assemble new neurological structures, the key then is to be able to repeat that information, to review it, to study it, to talk about it. And if you take a group of people and you put them together that are interested in evolving their understandings and creating a better life for themselves, or seeing if their thoughts have some effect on their destiny, that knowledge then is information. And information and knowledge creates awareness. And awareness is consciousness. And you can't have consciousness without energy. So people, as they learn knowledge, they begin to change their energy. If they can review that information and they can talk about it and share it with one another, build a model of understanding, then they begin to fire and wire those circuits in their brain and they begin to remember that information. So as they talk about it and they build that model, they're installing the neurological hardware in their brain in preparation for an experience. So then when they take that knowledge and they personalize it, they apply it, they demonstrate it, they initiate it in some way and they do something differently, getting their behaviors to match their intentions or their actions equal to their thoughts, getting their mind and body working together is going to create a new experience. Now, experience then, the beauty of experience is that experience then further enriches the brain. People are beginning to learn how to self-regulate. They're learning how to change their internal state of being without relying on something outside of them. Now, what's the importance behind that? They tend to be more self-reliant, and they tend to resolve issues in their lives without relying on anyone or anything. So demystifying the process since 1986 has been my journey. And I started looking at, after my own personal injury and my own experience of healing, I started looking at other people that had similar health conditions or had chronic health conditions, and they were treating conventionally or unconventionally, and they were staying the same or getting worse, and then all of a sudden they got better. And so I traveled to 17 different countries and looked to see what the commonalities were with these people, interviewing hundreds and hundreds of people that had spontaneous remissions from disease. And it turns out they had four common things. First thing is that they believed that there was an intelligence that lived within them that was giving them life. And this intelligence, of course, is a consciousness, and consciousness is awareness, and awareness is paying attention. So they began to realize that this intelligence that was giving them life was keeping their heart beating and digesting their food and organizing those trillions of functions that happen on a moment-to-moment basis in our body. That body in the expression of life is a miracle in and of itself, and that they realized that they couldn't do the healing, that this intelligence could heal way better than them. So they decided, to develop a relationship with this intelligence, to take time and connect with it. That intelligence then began to respond and began to make changes in their health. The second thing that I discovered in the commonalities was that these people all of a sudden took responsibility for their disease. And they didn't say it was my ex that did it to me, or it was the loss of my partner, or my boss is a tyrant and they're the reason I am this way. They got beyond that state of victimization And they realized that it was the mismanagement of their own thoughts and emotions that created their disease.
The more you watch our spiritual videos, the lessons will sink in different ways. You'll also meet new ideas at different times in your lives when you're ready to hear them. This is what we tell you in the next part of the video.
And when we're unhappy, we walk a certain way. And when we're feeling sorry for ourselves, our posture changes, and our body changes, and our chemistry changes. And so the moment somebody starts taking on a new energy, and they practice that for 2 weeks, they're going to walk from their car to their office. They're going to be walking as their future self, and their body's going to have to catch up sooner or later. And when it does, all of a sudden, they'll say what a lot of people say: I know I'm healed. I know it. How do you know? I just know. I'll do the test, but I already know I'm healed. We see that all the time. So it's just like, on my ranch, the stallions are in these big paddocks. And when I first had my stallions, I wouldn't put any hot lines around there. And, they could smell the mares up on the top of the property, and they would literally run right through the wooden fences, just like these big animals just breaking through and running up the hill. Well, they were just, nature was calling, But you put a hot line on there, and they hit that hot line a few times, you can walk them right up to that hot line, and they will not go any further. That's conditioned. You notice a change in your internal state, you become awake and aware, and you pay attention to what caused it, and you narrow your focus on that line. Do it a few times, and you take a stallion, you try to move that stallion past that point, and they will not move. You can get 5 guys to push them, and they'll push them all backwards. They've been conditioned into the box, right? So that's what pain does for us, right? Like, oh, I don't want that to happen again. So the body is already programmed to make sure that it doesn't. So you start taking the person out of their comfort zone, out of the known, and the body's going, well, I don't know if I want to do this, and it does all those things. Follow the instructions. Take your attention off your body, and every time your body starts doing that, settle it down into the present moment and say, I'm going to let you sleep later. I'm going to let you eat later. You can drink coffee later. You can open your eyes and take a shower later. You can lay down. You can do whatever. But right now, you're no longer the mind. I'm the mind. Mm-hmm. And every time it does that, you settle it back down into the present moment and you unfold back into possibility. You're training that horse. You're retraining the horse and telling it it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind. And just like training any animal, sooner or later, it's going to realize that your will is greater than the program, and it's going to finally surrender. And when it does, there's always a liberation of energy, and everybody always says the same thing. I'm so glad I stuck with it. It was so worth it. I pushed myself further than I thought I can go. And every time you push yourself further than where you think you could go, you're in the unknown. So the moment you scratch your head, you're back in the known. If you knew that divine was a loving intelligence, and that it is the very fabric of everything material, and that it's been present the whole entire time, and you got to meet it with the same energy. Your mind has to match its mind. Your love for life has to match its love for life. Your will has to match its will. And when you do, and you eclipse with that intelligence, you won't be yawning. You won't be itching. You will be stunned by its magnificence. So many people they go at it kind of half speed, and they go at it like, I don't want to do this, or I'm tired, or that's the body-mind talking as they go into it unconsciously. But if you knew that you could create something new by changing your energy, and that you could connect to this intelligence that's real, what would you bring to the date? You'd be on time. You would be present. You would be engaged. You would bring your best. You wouldn't let anybody or anything distract you, just like your date with a lover. You wouldn't miss that date for anything. You would move mountains to make sure that you had time for that person.